Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the show. This episode is brought to you by The Wellness Paradigm, a holistic health coaching company shifting the way that women understand and heal their bodies. Through bioenergetic testing, functional lab testing, and functional nutrition, we uncover what traditional approaches often overlook. So you can stop guessing, start healing, and finally feel like yourself again. No more one size fits all protocols, just real answers, deep rooted healing, and the clarity and confidence you deserve to feel incredible. It's time to shift the paradigm of women's health. Now, on to our show. Good afternoon, Lynn.
Good afternoon.
So we're going to have a great conversation here with Lynn, who is a body talk and body intuitive practitioner and also certified hypnotist. And she really helps people-pleasing women feel safe to say no and set boundaries and really just become more unapologetically themselves. And, I know that this is a really, really common topic that comes up on a lot of consults, a lot of podcasts, is these people-pleasing, tendencies. And I'm so interested to hear kind of a lot more of your take on this. Not only how people can heal this, but why this is happening. It's fascinating. So,
Yes.
um, anyways, tell us a little bit more about who you are, Lynn, and how you got into this work.
I started out my practice in kind of a different niche, but I started to discover that a lot of the women that I was working with chronic illness really had a lot of these tendencies of people pleasing and really just not feeling safe. And that's one of the things I think we can chat about today is like how it really comes from a nervous system standpoint. Like we have trauma, we have different patterns in our childhood, and we don't feel safe. So, kind of from seeing those patterns in my clients and also witnessing the consequences of this, like my work really shifted after my mom passed away last year. And my mom really neglected her health for the majority of her life. She was kind of the quintessential overgiver and caregiver to others. So she took care of a lot of different people in our family, but the one person she never really took care of was herself. And tragically, that ended up for her with neglecting type 2 diabetes, hypertension that wasn't properly managed, which led to kidney failure last year. And I really just have this passion in my heart that women should stop sacrificing our own health and our own needs because it can have those types of consequences. I mean, it sounds harsh to say that my mom neglected herself to death, but I really feel like that's kind of the headline of that story.
I mean, and kind of hits you on the head with a bat, doesn't it?
It really does. I've shared that on social media and it's hit hard for a number of women. Like, wow, am I, driving myself off a cliff here with the way I'm living my life? And, sometimes we need that reality check and wake up call.
Yeah, and I mean, especially with this kind of work, it's you probably get women that are like, this is just the way I am, right? I mean, I've always given to other people, and it's very noble, especially, I mean, many moms, right? This is a big
Yes.
pattern, and it doesn't have to be just moms, but giving to everybody else, and then suddenly you don't realize why do my joints hurt? Why is my body suddenly onto weight
Ex-
inflammation? And it's all just quotation random, and you go to all these doctors, and there's like, well, your labs are fine, your thyroid's fine, your hormone, all these are fine. It's like, okay, this is just the way I'm gonna be.
Yeah, but in reality, I think the body is just screaming out, It's like you can't sustain this any longer. Like giving, giving, giving. Like what's in left in your gas tank? Nothing.
Yeah. And so I'm curious on your thoughts with, where these tendencies kind of come from. If somebody comes to you and is like, this is just the way I've always been, maybe they don't understand this is a problem or how much it's truly impacting them.
Right.
So walk me through a little bit of that journey for a client.
Yeah, so it's really about, first of all, helping people understand that it's not just like a personality trait or it's not just the way that you are, it's the way that you were conditioned to be during childhood often.
Mm.
So there's different types of people pleasers I see, which really kind of correspond to the four different states of the nervous system. So there's kind of the fight, flight, freeze, fawn type of personality And I think some of them are easier to spot, the fawn people who it's like, I can never say no to anybody. Everybody asks me to do things and I'm just the automatic yes woman. But sometimes there's the women who are like always, they're more in that kind of fight or flight side of things. And they're like, I can't let anybody help me because, like, if they do it, they're not going to do it right. It's just easier if I do it. It's faster. And that's also kind of like a control and nervous system response as well, where it's like, and you're also proving yourself. I think that's another piece of that puzzle, right? Like if you grew up in a home where maybe you earned your parents' praise and approval because you got good grades, you were really helpful around the house, you were kind of the quintessential good girl, doing all those things, then that's going to show up. Yeah, you're raising your hand there, like, yep. I think we all can recognize pieces of our childhood. And, maybe there's parts of this in different ways. Like, I know I don't think I externally felt like I had to get good grades because of my parents, but I know I got praise for that. I was smart.
Mhm.
You're a good student, great job. And my parents were both highly educated. So, like, I think there was a desire to please them in that way, like to be a good student. And I was naturally smart. So in the beginning, it was easy to
Mhm.
earn praise that way.
So true. Um, yeah, I can relate to that story as well. Funny kind of piecing and these parts of our childhood together into who we are now. And I don't know about your clients, but opening Pandora's box on that,
Yes.
they don't realize, or maybe sometimes don't even accept that your childhood is impacting who you are now, and we can't just rewire, and it's not just willpower, and it's not just like what your body's gonna be. It's like, no, there are all these patterns that are deeply ingrained in you.
Very
Um,
much so.
Take a hot sec to rewire.
It does, and that's certainly why I think I have brought in hypnosis is because, in the first 7 years of our lives, we walk around in basically what they say is like a hypnotic state. So
Mhm.
everything that we see around us, everything that we're told by, our parents and our teachers and all of these, just society in general, those things we just accept as truths. It's like, a good girl is polite and she doesn't make waves and she doesn't ruffle feathers. Okay, so now that's now my belief. If I want to be a good girl, I have to do all of those things. Or if I want to be, pleasing to my parents, I need to help them with the chores and help them with my siblings and get good grades and all of those things. And one of the things I think you kind of sort of pointed to as you were sharing a little bit is we can't change those things by just, saying, oh, I know I do these patterns. Like we can't really change it from the conscious mind so easily because they're hardwired in there. And so that's one of the powerful things about something like hypnosis is we can get in there and we can go back to, those old beliefs, clear them out and then create what do you want to believe? Do you want to walk around your life thinking, I have to be everything to everyone else and never have time for myself? Or do you want to believe like, hey, when I take care of myself, everyone thrives? Like that's one of the beliefs we worked with in a program I was running a few weeks ago for some women. It was like, when I, take care of myself, I thrive and so does everyone else. That feels
Mhm.
so much different, right?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So, besides some hypnosis, which I also, if you want to actually, before I go down a rabbit hole, I feel like hypnosis has a very negative connotation for some people. And they don't actually understand what hypnosis is. A lot of people think, oh, I'm just going to lose control and I'm going to just like, levitate. It's just like,
Or bark like a dog, cluck like a
right.
chicken, all those crazy things you may have seen on a TV show or a movie or
Yes.
in Las Vegas or something like that.
Which, there's many different forms and ways to do it. But, for a lot of people, that that 0 to 7, as you mentioned, is a formative time of your years and being able to kind of tap into that. I know hypnosis kind of focuses on that, but can you maybe debunk or tell us a little bit more on like maybe how you use hypnosis and how it's maybe a different technique than what people
Yeah.
think?
Yeah, so those things that we were describing are more like stage hypnosis, so they're for entertainment purposes. And like I wouldn't want to do that kind of hypnosis and go up on stage either, but the way that I use hypnosis is really for deep transformation, for deep belief work. So the one of the myths is you lose control. You actually never lose control. You can choose to open up your eyes at any point when you're hypnotized and be like, nope, this isn't working for me. I've had some people that say this isn't actually, they've tried it. It's not for me. I felt like I was, in somebody had like claustrophobic feelings, interestingly. And I was like, that's okay. If this doesn't feel right for you, that's fine. And she had the agency to say, I don't want to do this. So, but what I really find is for a lot of people, it's very similar to meditation, just with a different purpose kind of behind it. So, meditation is really about that quieting of the mind, coming into stillness. This is more about kind of clearing out of the way the conscious mind, like kind of sliding it aside, so to speak, so we can talk to your subconscious and we can create a lot of new beliefs. And that's really how I use hypnosis with people, is we do a lot of talking actually before we go into hypnosis about, what do you believe about this topic? Like, what do you believe about if I say no to people? What does that mean about you? And then we create new beliefs, because most people will say, I'm selfish. People aren't going to like me. They're going to get mad at me. And do we want to walk around with that? Not really, because it's not going to get us those results. If we think people are going to hate us and think we're selfish and, get mad, we're never going to speak up. Who would want to do that? That's again comes back to that survival piece, rejection. So we need to go in there and create these new beliefs of like, it's safe for me to speak up. Like there's nothing wrong with that it's actually healthy for me to speak up and to assert my needs and boundaries.
Yeah. Oh, so true. Now, what are the different kind of modalities aside from obviously hypnosis? Somebody that's maybe not familiar with body talk or body intuitive practitioner have never heard these words before and may sound a little bit strange to them. How do you use these modalities to kind of unpack these, deep-rooted nervous system dysfunction, for lack of better words?
Yeah, so both of those systems are kind of interconnected to each other. One's kind of an offspring of the other. And both of the systems really look at understanding the story behind what's going on. So it's very intuitively based for me as a practitioner. I'm kind of getting quiet, tuning in to the story of like, why are you struggling with this particular pattern? Why can't you say no? Why are you always giving to everybody else and never taking care of yourself? Whatever pattern we're working on. And oftentimes we'll go back to, I'm guided intuitively to particular moments in time, memories. Like maybe something happened, in your early childhood and your mom told you that's not what a good girl does. That's selfish. That's mean. Maybe there's even ancestral stuff, because we can use this work to work, in family lines. And so you probably have come from a long line of women who sacrificed their needs, people pleased, like probably most women on this planet, unless they've done a lot of healing work, fit into that category, because there's so much conditioning for women around, being nice, being good, taking care of everyone, not taking care of ourselves.
Hmm.
So, these tools are really powerful to uncover those roots. And I also love working energetically, because, we are more than just physical bodies. We're not just, the skin and the bones and the muscles and the tissues. We're like energetic beings. And if we can create safety in that energetic system, where I almost view it as it's like you're putting on this protective bubble where you start to feel really safe, both in your nervous system, and we can use the energy work for nervous system support too, and in your energetic being, it just feels different to start to speak up and say no. You just feel more comfortable, instead of going and feeling like, oh, I have to say something to someone and I'm ready to go ride and hide in the corner. You're like, oh, I can feel my feet on the ground. I can feel my body, and I can feel myself saying, okay, it's okay. I can start to change this pattern. I feel safe to start to change this pattern.
Which is, I mean, people don't even understand what that would even feel like. You know what I mean? Uh,
Exactly. Until you start to experience it. And it's such a beautiful thing when you start to see that, like one of the ladies in my embodied no program was sharing, she used to get all like flushed and her hands would sweat and her stomach would tie in knots when she would think of speaking up. And, after 6 weeks, was that completely transformed? No. But she's been able to like speak up and not be in that same state of anxiety. She's been able to like start to make steps towards that, which is so powerful.
hmm Oh, I mean, can be completely transformative for people. Those
Exactly.
simple things, just asking for what you need sometimes. That sounds so simple, but we're just conditioned to not do that, and then we harbor resentment almost, you know?
Exactly. That's definitely a big piece of the puzzle too, is, oftentimes it's like that catch 22. Like we want to be nice and we want to be good and we want people to like us. And yet we're kind of resentful because we're tired and we're not like, feeling good in our bodies. We're not feeling taking care of ourselves. It's like I'm busy running around giving to everybody, and who gives to me? Who
Mm,
takes care of me?
yeah. Yeah. Is there maybe one or two transformations that you have seen that have been like really powerful that have kind of stood out to you from using this work?
Yeah, so one of them, this is actually, I've never seen this sort of transformation with just one energetic healing session. So this woman came to me. She had uncovered that she had a kidney stone in one of her kidneys, and it was like a giant kidney stone. So she'd gone to the chiropractor, didn't know that the kidney stone was there, had x-rays, and they were like, holy crap, you have this big kidney stone in your kidney. And so she reached out and we actually did some clearing. And much of the work that we did was around these patterns of lifelong self sacrifice, overgiving, taking care of her kids when she was, raising them, taking care of her mother who's aging now. And after our one session, she had like a CT scan to, look more at what was going on with this kidney stone. And they said the kidney was calcified too. That was the other thing they thought from the x ray. And so this was about a month after our work together. And I checked in with her. I said, how did your CT scan go? And she goes, are you sitting down? And I said, yeah. She said they couldn't find the kidney stone.
That's crazy.
And that was probably the most profound transformation I've seen from just one session with someone. Usually it takes more than one session, and for this person it was just like we found that root of what her body was showing her through this kidney stone, and boom, like kidney stone gone, and the doctors were like, what? How is that possible? And she just knew. Like she was like, we did such profound work on that pattern, it just went away.
Wow. I mean, I think you and I were chatting about this before we hit record with, bioresonance work and energy work. And it's like sometimes it's hard to almost believe that things are shifting and changing so much when you can't see it, until you
Exactly.
have an X-ray and a CT, you have that very like logical, like this is a before and after almost. And it's like, especially when you work on some of this deep work, it's working, it's like it can't not work. Like that's what I said. Things are shifting. You aren't ever going to be the same after certain energy work. It's just a matter of if you consciously are,
Aware of it,
figuring
yeah.
out. Um, but yeah, it's hard to sometimes understand that result that people are feeling, and because we haven't seen it. I mean, you've seen it in the health world, right? So
Hmm.
things get better. I mean, things like autoimmune issues, things like the big C word. I'll say cancer because COVID's a big one too. But things just start randomly improving through energy work. They can, I should say. And it's like, but maybe you didn't even realize that things were kind of brewing before.
Exactly.
Same with the kidney stone. You might have not realized it was there because unless you're doing scans and x-rays and all this, which you're not usually until you have a problem. But stuff
Right.
on an energetic level shifts and changes before we see it in the physical, right? So
Yep.
scan every single body before and after to be so interesting, which there is actually a lot of research on this. A lot
Right.
of work on doing before and after on certain scans of the brain and the body and energy and different, things that are happening before and after. But yeah, that's a really interesting one that.
It was one that kind of even, even though I've been doing energy work for like 12, 13 years, it was one that even blew my mind. I was like, wow, like boom.
Yeah, I love that story. So if somebody's maybe dealing with some people-pleasing tendencies, they want to break away from this. They're maybe tired of it. They know they need to take care of themselves. They just don't know how, right? What would be some things that you could, tell them if they're maybe listening to kind of guide them back to, feeling a little bit more balanced with this?
Yeah, I would say, one of the first steps is just kind of that awareness piece. So even when you think about this, like when you think about you have to say something to someone that maybe isn't uncomfortable, like I don't want to do that, I'm not going to do that for you anymore, setting some new boundary. Even if you just sit and think about it, like first just what happens in your body, because I think most of the time we're not even like taking time to slow down and realizing like how do I feel about that. So bring that to awareness. Like where do you feel it in your stomach? Do you feel it in your stomach? Do you feel it in your throat? Are your palms sweaty? And then maybe, finding, like I teach a lot of different simple nervous system tools. So finding something that you can start to do to just calm down your body before you even go into that conversation. Because if you go into that conversation and you're all freaked out, your palms are sweaty, your stomach's hurting, you're like probably going to squeak out the message, think I could do that for you, if it comes out at all. If you can start to just create a little bit of safety, because basically what your brain is trying to do is just saying, danger, it's not safe, it's the wild tiger sitting in the bush that's going to kill you if you say no, which is logically, you hear that and you go, that's not really true, but your body doesn't know that. So getting your body, taking some deep breaths even can just be really powerful before you try to make those changes. Like just start to explore, how can I support my body? How can I support my nervous system in making those changes? And that's a way to start to explore it. There's, if this is a long-standing pattern, that might not do it for you. You might need, more support and help, but that's kind of one way to start to explore, what do I feel in my body? What am I telling myself about this too? Like we can write out what thoughts are coming to mind and just look at those on paper. Is that something I really want to believe, that this person's going to be mad, that they're going to dislike me and hate me because I'm saying, no, I'm not available for that anymore. You go
Mhm.
into that conversation with that mentality, it's probably not going to play out really well for you.
Yeah, and the cycle just continues to repeat.
Exactly. So then you get more confirmation, as you're saying, basically. Like it didn't go well that time. So your brain adds it to the database that it's keeping of like, look at the 500 times that you've tried to say no to someone and it didn't go so well for you. And you're not going to want to change.
It's very true. Yep, that confirmation. See, didn't work. Well, let's unpack this more.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, the answer really is that there's probably, if this has been a lifelong pattern for you, it's not going to be a quick fix thing. It's not going to be, but starting to bring awareness to that, and just having that intention of, I want to change this, I know this isn't serving me. That's awareness is always the first step in anything.
Yeah, 100%. Now, if you had like one little piece of advice for someone that's maybe going through this, what would you say to the woman listening to this that is, wanting to take this next step to really healing?
Yeah, I would say, 100% you're, first of all, you're worthy, you're deserving of that. Because that's, I think, a big block that a lot of women have is it's like, it's selfish to put myself first. It's selfish to make these changes. What's going to happen, with everybody else? And it's not selfish. It's actually, I have another friend that talks a lot about people pleasing, and she's like, it's actually, selfish and controlling when we're in people pleasing. And that can be kind of harsh to hear, but
Mhm.
it is a way that we're trying to keep control often. So, making that change is actually going to transform your relationships, and it's going to free your energy. It's going to free you to be who you are really underneath all of that crap that got piled on you over the course of your life.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I love that insight. So, um, if people wanted to learn a little bit more on like what you do, kind of get in touch with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, check out my website, which is heartfirehealingllc.com, and you can kind of poke around there. You can see some one-on-one offerings, some group offerings. I have a free quiz that you can take that really helps you understand which of those four people pleaser types you're in. So it's really fun. It only takes a couple minutes to take it. It's not like a 60 question quiz. So go ahead and take that. And then there's also a place if you want to connect and have a really meaningful conversation. I have what I call the sacred yes call. So that's really a chance for us to kind of dive into what are you seeking support with, and I'll help you uncover some of the patterns, and we'll see if working together in some fashion is a fit.
Mm. Awesome. Well, I will definitely link that website, and I think the quiz is in that website down in the show notes below, as well as your social media. So if people wanted to connect and just shoot you a message and say, hey, that really helped, I'm sure Lynn would love that. I always love when people DM me and they're like, this episode hit home too. So thank you, Lynn, for being here. Really appreciate you spending some afternoon with me. And then thank you, listeners, for being here. Always appreciate you as well. And we will catch you guys on the next show. Thank you, Lynn.
All right, thank you.